Hello, good evening. This is Allen's Consultant. Today we have a special guest. His name is Jonathan Martin from Muskegon, Michigan. Today we're glad to have him to share his interview and input and experience regarding being a small business owner. This particular segment we're discussing, and John say thank you. Also appreciate the fact he's my cousin.
Thank you, cousin.
That's right, he's my cousin. Being in business, a lot of small businesses just don't have the resources or capital to start the business independently. Many of us are not able to go to the bank and acquire $150,000. So many times it's imperative that investors come into play for an individual to be able to launch their dreams. An investor is one that provides capital resources, assets to help a business without being a quote unquote owner. They're an investor, but not an owner. The owner goes into a contractual obligation and agreement with the investor that the investor provides X amount of resources and capital for a return. Jonathan, have you been an investor before?
This is my first time being a sole investor in a business that I'm not hands-on. I would say that.
And many times, people get it twisted and unable to stay within the confines of being an investor. When you're an investor, you buy into the belief that the owner has a business plan, a model that's going to be successful to provide you your return. It doesn't mean that the investor can come and operate, manage, give guidance, direction, or make policies for that business. And the owner has to make sure that the parameters are set clearly and defined for each investor. So, in addition to being an investor, you have your own business.
I do.
What is the name of your business?
My business is named Cultural Homes LLC. It's a remodeling business, and also I purchase homes for renting out to small families, large families, different sorts of income families, whatever they may need. And I provide a service where some low income families can't afford the big rental situation as far as income. So I look at their income, and due to their income and the size of the family, I may purchase a home, and I'm taking all the burden of the cash flow off of them. They're paying me monthly. I fix the home up, but I'm fixing it due to the size of the family, and also providing the service where if they can't pay like all their utilities, I may pick it up for a certain amount of time until they can become and be whole to uphold the whole situation as far as the month to month, everything up under their own. So that's basically what I do.
That's good. How long have you been in business?
Now I've been doing home construction for about 15 years. 15 years in and out, yep. And now that's my side business. I work for Arconic. That is a plane industry that's in Whitehall, Michigan. And I've also worked for a government company called General Dynamics, which is called L3 now. It's changed a couple of times. And that was a government-funded defense system. And I've learned a lot, how to do a lot on a broad scale. So I never limit myself. I've always broadened my skills by learning more.
Okay. Before we turn our segment over to you to share various opinions and thought processes that you have for being in business for 15 years, You buy homes,
Yes.
you rehab them,
Yes.
you rent them, you sell them, things of that nature. One of the things that I would like for you to share with the audience is, let's say you wanted to rehab an apartment complex.
Mm-hmm.
But the apartment complex, to acquire it, is going to be a very large sum of money.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we learned in school at a very early stage is that you want to do as much as possible without using your own money.
Exactly.
I'm going to step out the way and I want you to share how you would go about that process, how you would set the relationships up with the individuals that would help you buy it. What level of participation would you let them have being a part of the project? In you acquiring it, rehabbing it, selling it, renting it out, or anything of that nature. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Johnny Martin from Muskegon, Michigan, who owns Culture Homes.
Thank you. We're going to talk about investing in. I'm going to do this two different ways. You can invest in apartment complexes or you can invest in homes, small homes, large homes, middle-sized homes, just depending on who the service you are trying to provide for. In investing is very important to go out and find out the city ordinance. Now that means you go by the city and you find out what the city are asking for apartment complexes, because everything dealing with apartment complexes and homes are similar, and what you have to know is what you can do and what you cannot do, and that pretty much settles the angles where you can find different investors, or if you're going to just invest yourself, because either way you want a project done, and at the end the whole necessary thing of doing this, the process is making money at the end, providing funds to either broaden your horizons or making another investment to keep going to build your portfolio. So with dealing with, I found with dealing in apartment complexes, they're very more they're difficult. They can be difficult because the way you have to have the apartment complex set up, you have 6 units, you have 8 units, and you have duplexes, which is not that's pretty much 2 houses, 2 homes put together. But financing, this is where we have a difficult problem, because most people don't have the backing to fund the whole project. So what I mean by going to the city, some cities have where they have B funds where they have systems put in place that we do not have access to, or we do not know, just because we don't know that that is put in place for that particular situation. Like they have different neighborhoods that you can go to, and pretty much the city will almost fund the whole project in the beginning, as long as you have a licensed contractor. So by me being a home, I work on homes, but I am not a licensed contractor. What I do is I contract out all my work to licensed contractors. So you have to build a good rapport with all your contractors, and if you do that, you can be very successful at this. So what I've learned to do is, by building my own home, I contracted out every aspect of the home, from clearing the lot to the foundation, to building the foundation, from the foundation to the plumbing, mechanical work, from that to drywall, from drywall to paint, picking out paints. This is how I learned the business. So in dealing with the finance aspect of this, let me see. You can use your own funding if you save. I mean, but saving takes a lot of time. So what you want to create friendships, family. If you can't get it from family, like I said, friendships. It's all about networking, getting out there, learning what your neighborhood or wherever your project you're trying to produce, wherever it is, you have to gain relationships. And as you gain the relationships, you gain knowledge on what you can do, what you can't do, what you can, far as financial institutions, you have banking, you have online services now, and you also have credit unions. Now, the banking is more in depth. The credit union, they give you more leniency. And then you have online banking now, which is that's just a uphold of a broad scale where you can pull off some pretty much they just want to know how they're going to get their money back. Online banking is pretty easy. Me myself, I deal with a lot of banks because of my credit history. So building your credit, paying things on time. I mean, today's world, you can fix your credit in 6 months, depending on how bad it is. I mean, you can go from a 300, 400 credit score to a 700 in 6 months in today's world. So that's the main important thing, is building your credit. And as you build your credit, you don't want to too much take any hits on your credit score where you trying to apply for this, apply for that. You have to draw out a plan. That's first. Anything, any project, you have to draw out a plan. That's from the financial standpoint all the way up into building it. So basically, financial is first. So let's keep talking about the financial. So if you go to the bank, they're going to ask you for equal collateral. Equal collateral means if you borrow $100,000, they pretty much want you to have a certain percentage of the 100,000 to even start the project. But like I said, dealing with apartment complexes and even homes, if you go to wherever your city is and you look in depth to what grants you can get, you can pretty much basically almost fund that whole project through your city today. Because a lot of cities have grant money that we don't have a clue about. All you have to do, you can get online and look through your city ordinance and see what grants are out there, or you can consult with the city officials and they can tell you. You can go through that, or by word of mouth. Creating friendships with the contractors, different contractors, talk to different contractors, and they can tell you basically on how to get funded through the city or whoever, as far as banking, what banks are doing certain loans. You have all kinds of different loans. We're not going to get into that, but you have different mortgages that you can get into. And like I said, the city, pretty much today's world, cities have a lot of money that's put away and put aside that we just don't know about. So you have to do your homework. Funding these being financially into businesses is really difficult on the finance part, because you really have to understand where the money is going to different angles of the project. Far as, like I said, if you write out the plan, then you would know how much the clearing of the lot, or the foundation of the business, or the building, or the framing It's a lot into building. I know people just think you just throw up some boards and nail a few nails in, and that's where, no, you got all kinds of mechanical work and painting and picking out flooring, cabinets. It's a lot that goes into the business. But you have to, if you, the main thing is, and I keep going back to it, is you have to write out a business plan. If you have a great business plan and you go into these financial institutions, they will pretty much sit down and they will tell you what else you need to either get the loan or give you the homework to go back, for you to go back home and dig more. So all you have to do is write out a business plan. Anything that I've ever done, I wrote out a business plan. I took it to the bank. They let me know how far I could go at that time. If that wasn't enough for my project, I went back home, revised the plan, took it back to the bank, and we came up with a solution to getting the money. So with that, I would just say you just have to be careful and know who you're dealing with. When you're dealing with contractors, or even if you just being a person that you want to invest, you don't want to be into the business. You don't want to help. You don't want to do any of the labor or any of that. You just want to invest into a business. Investing into a business is like what David was saying earlier. You say, for instance, we invest in the restaurant. We invest in the restaurant. Everybody comes to the table. You can come to the table with different amounts depending on what the owner is asking for. You invest $100,000. He needs $100,000. He invests 25. He has 3 other investors that invest maybe 10 to 15. But out of that 100,000, all you need is a certain percentage of the money, and you can invest depending on what the buy-in is, 5,000, 2,000, but then you only own a certain percentage. So you need to get that in paperwork and I guess read over the contract that y'all come up with, or whatever kind of agreement that you come up with. I strongly advise that you have a contract in the beginning before you even invest the money, so you can see what percentage that you got coming back, because you're not owning the business. You're just solely a provider at the beginning of the business as a person in the back. You just giving them money to invest in their dream or whatever they might be coming up with, and you're just looking for a certain percentage, whether it's monthly, quarterly, however that y'all draw up the contract. But you have to understand, in investing means that's what you're doing. It's a risk. There's a risk at anything that you do. The risk is that you may invest in the business folds, you get nothing. Or if they sell, you get a percentage. That's what investing is. And that's where the contracts come into play. So if by providing information on when you invest, I'm just saying, for me, being an investor with my cousin and his partners, I'm learning the business. I've never been in the restaurant business, and I'm just solely an investor. So I can give my input, but that don't mean they're going to take it. So it's with a grain of salt. It just depends on what kind of relationship. Once again, it's the relationship, and then what do you want to get out of what you're trying to invest in? Are you just being an investor because you want to gain money, or do you want to gain knowledge to probably invest in something on your own, build your own restaurant, or it don't have to be whatever you might be investing in. I mean, you just have to gain as much knowledge as you can. And also, the most important to me is your business plan. If you write out a plan and you go through the necessary steps of the plan, you will be successful. I mean, it's no guarantees to anything, and you, at least if you don't progress, you will gain the knowledge to progress with. So, by me investing in myself in the business that I have, as far as my home construction business, like I said, I'm not a licensed contractor. Only thing I've done, I've always found licensed contractors. I gained good relationships, rapport with them, and all I do is I contract all the work out. So I'm actually the head boss. I am the boss. So I oversee the whole thing because I'm the one with the financial backing. I'm funding the project. I got the plans for the project. So it just depends on how far you want to go with things. I mean, even investing or whether you're doing your own project or whether you're building your own home, it all ties into the same thing, which once again I say business plan. The plan in the beginning is writing everything down. You just can't. A lot of people try to go off the fly and they're not writing things down. They forget this, they don't have this, and then they get frustrated and then they just want to quit. First thing you should do, always do, think about, dream about what you want to do. If you can dream, it can become true, and that's with anything that you do. Professional athletes, they don't know they're going to be professional athletes when they're kids. Everybody wants to be a professional football, basketball player, baseball player, soccer player. It's a process. Everything's a process. As you grow, you learn. As you get older, you learn. But the most thing is to always listen. Don't always speak first because you know, because you don't know. The more you can obtain the knowledge from someone else and you can see their vision from a different point, that's why I became successful, by listening and taking viewpoints from different sources and putting them in my own way. So to me, I think that's the gift that I have, and being just courteous to people. You know, I'm a people person. I get around, I talk, I'm physical with people, I'm visual with people, I listen. I mean, and I'm just like I said, like a friend. I'm a people person. If they need a hand, I go help them. If I need a hand, they come help me. So, with that being said, that's the only thing I got to conclude on is always in a business aspect, always have a business plan that you have thought all the way through, and from point A to point B, wherever you're going with it, don't be afraid to ask questions. I mean, from your city, like I said, your city ordinance or people around your community that's done whatever kind of project you're funding or whatever you're trying to get into. Ask questions. That's the only way you gain knowledge, because no one knows everything. So I guess that's my greatest thing that I've always had. I've always asked questions and listened.
Would you recommend?
Banks that I would recommend, I kind of stay away from the smaller banks, but it just depends on what city, what state you're in. Like, I use Huntington. Huntington is a worldwide bank. You can use Chase Bank. Chase Bank does a lot of home loans or building loans. Some banks stay away from the building process because it's such a risk. So, like Bank of America, that's another good one. Then you have these, I don't necessarily use them, but the online banking. today that is huge. So you can go online and pretty much, um, if you have all the credentials that you need, far as if you got all your eggs in a row, your ducks in a row, and you can prove the paperwork is just a paper process. I mean, you can go online and ask 100,000, 200,000, and if you can come up with the paperwork that actually shows that you can afford this, online banking is probably the most easiest way to getting the funding for any project that you want to start. So I would probably, today's world, online banking is huge. Online banking is huge because you don't need as much paperwork. When you go through the bank, I'm gonna tell you, when you go through the banks, you're gonna need excessive paperwork, and it has to come back with all the I's dotted and T's crossed. Anything that's out the ordinary, you can be halfway through the process with a bank, and if they find any glitch within the 30 days or 60 to 90 days that it takes for the loan to go through. See, that's the other thing with dealing with banks. Dealing with banks, you have, once you start the loan process, it may take 30 to 90 days before you even finish the paperwork process. So online banking, I'm gonna tell you, is different because when you're dealing with online banking, they actually, they pretty much know whether they're gonna give you the money or take the risk on you or not within the first 10 to 15 days. I mean, the turnaround is so great. See, this is why everybody in online banking is so huge today, because they don't play. If you can prove you got this income and you can afford this and you got this much backing as far as your financial advisors, or like I said, if you build a plan, a portfolio that's so tough, online banking is the way to go because they'll give you the turnaround of the money within 10 to 15 days. Banks are not going to do that. They're gonna dig deep into your history, and also it's funny with banks because banks will more or less wait to see in that 90 days whether you mess up, whether you miss a payment on anything. And if you do, you better have a good explanation to why you missed the payment or why this paperwork didn't go through or whatever. Online banking, like I said, that's why online banking is huge, because within that 10 to 15 days, the process is done. You have given them the paperwork, they received the paperwork, they looked it over, they turn around and give you the check. Now all you doing is paying them back as far as however you got that set up. Banks and credit unions are totally different. Credit unions are more lenient than banks, but I've just dealt with banks all my life because I have a history with banks. Today's world, like I said, the young folks that's coming up, I would advise you to invest in, find online banking first. If you can deal with online banking, it's going to be much faster, much easier, a lot less pain. Dealing with banks, they're going to dig into your past, your history, and if it's not good, they're going to find it. So it's just like being a criminal or anything else. It's on file. They're going to find it, and they're going to find a way not to give you the money, or make it harder for you to get the money, I should say. And that's the same thing with credit unions. So in today's world, I think, and I would tell the young folks or anybody who wants to do a project, not necessarily young or old, whatever, online banking is the way to go.
One more question.
Okay.
Your business, you said that you do Like if people are late on their payments,
Mm-hmm.
that you would pay it for them?
Mm-hmm.
Is that nonprofit or?
Well, again, I have a financial institution where it just depends. That's why I say you build your rapport with people. You have to know who you're dealing with. You have to understand. A lot of things I do is because I have the financial backing myself to back them. So I don't even have to deal with the city, because a lot of cities have, say for instance, if somebody get in trouble with their rent, they have these programs where you can fill out the paperwork and they'll help you with the rent. See, Michigan's is known for this. We have a lot of different programs in Michigan where you can get your rent paid for, you can get your utilities paid for if you run into hard times. They have different various programs. Like I said, all you have to do is go down to the city, and we have city officials and office personnel that can direct you to whatever you may need. I mean, we don't necessarily have bad weather like hurricanes and everything like the South do. So we have things set in place, like if you lose your job or you fall on bad times, they'll pick up your rent. So, but with me, it just depends on the situation or who I'm dealing with. You know, if I got apartment complexes open, I may even just waive the fee for them to come in. I won't charge them first month's rent, and that's big on its own, because that gives them a month of money that they can put towards utilities that they haven't paid. Once I fill out a contract, and I find out more about them, it better helps me to understand their situation. So I would probably set them up as far as if I need to waive their process fee or any kind of fee of like coming in. I won't make them pay, you know, and I'll let them use that money to catch them up. It's just different programs that I have in myself that I can afford to help them with without using the city services and all of that. So basically, I just, by filling out the lease, find out more about them, talk to them, find out their situation, what they need, what they don't need, and then I go from there. If I can help, I help out. If it's financial, I do financial. If it's something that, as far as anything that's dealing with whatever I'm dealing with, as far as if it's a home or apartment complex, if it's something that needs to be changed or they want to be changed, we can do that. So I pretty much leave it up to them, let them tell me what they need, and then I provide the service.